My name is Martin Buck. I started my career back with a degree in building, actually. It's brought me into the industry. I guess I always wanted to be in the construction industry, so very boring in that respect. I never really considered anything else. And I felt my degree did bring me into an area of the industry that was played to my strengths. I went into building contracting, and then with the development of the industry at that time moved into project management with a young organisation at that time called Nichols Associates, who became Nichols Group now, you know. I then was fortunate to move into private financing of major projects with PFI, working and leading actually the Lewisham Extension project, which was one of the pathfinders, which led me then into the Treasury Task Force. So I went into central government at that point. And from the Treasury Task Force, I then that developed into Partnerships UK, and Partnerships UK took me into Crossrail. So, and I left Crossrail around about 3 years ago, and I've since that time been working as an independent consultant in the industry. So that's my sort of career in a nutshell. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Civil Engineers and the RICS. Well, I guess my proud moment, my proud point, I guess would be that I've, one way or the other, sometimes by luck rather than judgment maybe, but found myself at the leading edge of whatever's been happening in the industry. I'm proud, I guess, of that. I can't claim to have plotted that course out in detail from the outset, far from it. I sometimes look back and wonder how on earth it all happened, but maybe that is another wonder of our industry, that can happen. I would like to think, and I try to bring this into all of my work, is it's about understanding the risks, how they impact things, and understanding how you can go about managing them. So I'm not a risk taker as such, but in terms of understanding the risk and allocating them, some risks either cannot be allocated to anybody else, or you have to look inside yourself and realise that you're the best person to deal with them. I would choose one that wasn't necessarily a decision, but it was one of the most uncomfortable moments and periods in my career, which was when I was leading the upgrading of the Docklands Light Railway project. And the project was to quadruple the capacity of the railway, which was operating at that time. So everything had to be done whilst the railway was operating, although of course a lot of it was done at nights and weekends. But midway through that project, there was a huge crash at Clapham. Work was done in a defective way and led to trains crashing whilst in service. And the consequence of that was that the whole industry put itself under review. And for our part, I was subject to a review of my role in leading that work that was changing the railway almost nightly from one condition to the next condition. I'm sure it wasn't just me, but my goodness, I felt extremely uncomfortable when I started to evaluate the risks and consequences of what we were doing. It was a moment in my career when I realised the gravity of responsibility that is placed upon organisations and people who are doing these things day in, day out. The first real influence on my career was my first boss at Higgs and Hill, who I recall extremely fondly. He was somebody who gave me the confidence to realise that I could do things. Fresh out of college, I believed in myself, but the world of work, particularly in the construction industry and engineering, can be quite a harsh place. Well, I think along the way I've had a lot of perfect jobs for me. I've been very, very lucky. I think the job that I had within the Treasury Task Force, within the Treasury, for a project wonk like me, was almost a perfect project, because it's very much at the top of the food chain. If any project is going to happen, it needs to be funded and financed. And the key to most mega projects in this country, given that the government is the sponsor of the vast majority of infrastructure projects, is in the Treasury. So it was a role that put me right at the centre of decision making. That led me into my role in Crossrail, and so I was extremely fortunate to be part of one of the biggest projects in the world at that time. A real privilege to be part of.